Good morning, and welcome to This Hour Has 10 Minutes. My name is Martha, and I will be your host. This morning, we will examine the dark side of the Canadian oil and gas industry.
Today I'm here in the Alberta oil sands. The sands behind me have been in use since the early 1900s, and as you can see, the environmental effects have been detrimental to the area. There's no wildlife behind me. While many think that the environmental factors are the biggest issue in the oil and gas industry, in fact, organizational issues run deep throughout the oil and gas industry. Today I'll be meeting with a number of current and ex-industry employees. We'll be talking about worker alienation, stress, middle management problems, senior management problems, living conditions, and substance abuse problems.
Last week, I sat down with Tracy, a single mother who's currently employed as a warehouse technician in northern Alberta. She's experiencing work alienation. Tracy took me to Camp Adventure, where I saw her bedroom. Tracy, how do you find daily work on your site?
I find work on the site very tedious. It's more of like production line work, packaging, labeling, over and over again.
All right. So, how much freedom do you have over your daily work?
I don't have a lot of freedom at all. Unfortunately, all my daily activities are determined by pre-job meetings through my supervisor.
All right. So, do you think you're able to find value in the work that you do relating to your personal life and the bigger picture?
I've been struggling to find that connection between my work and my personal life. I find the work up here is very isolating. I feel like I'm in a prison a lot of the time, and it's definitely very hard. I've recently broken up with my ex, and that means I'm a single mother, and therefore I've had to leave and find work and leave the care of my children in the hands of my parents, which is not something I want to do. But
So, if camp life is like this, why aren't you living on your own?
Unfortunately, for a lot of people in northern Alberta, it's in the contract that you have to live on camp, which is again very unfortunate. I'd love to find another job that would allow me to live at home and be with my family and be with my kids, but I'm a single parent and this provides money, and that's all I can do at this point.
All right, thank you. I then sat down with Alice, a heavy equipment technician experiencing high levels of stress due to working conditions. This, unfortunately, has resulted in her becoming depressed.
So Alice, as a heavy equipment technician, you must do a lot of heavy lifting. Is that a big stress on your body?
Yeah, so I conduct a lot of maintenance repairs, such as removal and replacement of major equipment. So that includes like engines and transmissions. So yeah, it can be very stressful on my body with the repetitive movement, but it's not all.
So if it isn't repetitive movement, it's not physical wear on your body, what is it about your job that makes it stressful?
I find it's the internal factors, political sometimes. So I find that in this industry you can really get discriminated on. Also, the environment is not very good.
So your living environment?
Yeah, my living environment is
And
very
camp
isolated.
life? Okay. All right, thank you.
I traveled to Edmonton, Alberta to visit Jacob, a former electrical technician who's living in a rehabilitation facility. Jacob was recently dismissed from work for being caught under the influence of cocaine while working.
Jacob, thanks for having me in today. We don't have too much time with you, so I'll just cut to the chase with my questions. While at Fort McMurray working, you got caught up in drugs. Why did you do that, and why cocaine?
Working in the oil sands is probably the hardest thing I've ever had to experience. I was pretty young, pretty impressionable, making a lot of money. So I turned to cocaine just to use it as a coping mechanism. It seemed like a pretty foolproof plan at the time.
So why do you say foolproof?
Well, a lot of people don't know, but like drugs like marijuana stay in your system for a while. Harder drugs like cocaine, crystal meth, that stuff, it's in and out like 24 hours and it's out of your system. So if you're doing a drug test, it doesn't stay in there very long, so you won't get caught if you do a drug test after the 24 hours.
All right. So what is the drug and alcohol testing? What's the policy like up there?
Well, when we first get hired on, right away we have to sign a DNA test. It's the drug and alcohol policy. And basically it just says they can test us for any substance at any time. But if you're cocaine or a harder drug, it only stays in your system 24 hours, so as long as the test is after that, you should be fine. But if there's an emergency, like a safety incident that happens on site, you get tested right away as soon as the incident happens. And that's how I got caught. There was an incident on site. I was out the night before and had used cocaine. So when they tested me the next day, it was just still within 24 hours. The cocaine was still in my system, and I got caught. I got fired, which makes sense. I mean, I broke the rules, but the way the company did things and the stressful living conditions, that's why I turned to drugs, and that wasn't really fair.
All right, thank you.
In 2010, a Suncor employee by the name of Mike Thomas wrote an expose on his personal blog about life on camp. He illustrated a disturbing picture for his audience and discussed the state of the washrooms, food quality, and air ventilation issues. The blog posts indicate that a healthy lifestyle was not attainable at Suncor camps. He said that the isolation alone had similar psychological effects of prison or remote military service, only without the discipline and government oversight. Shortly after the blog was posted, Mike was fired from his job.
We're hovering about 3/4 of a mile away from this fire, and the heat is incredible up here in the cockpit.
From the news station, this is a Fox 4 News Alert.
I finally had the opportunity to sit down with an ex-middle management member named Michael, who was recently let go from a midstream oil and gas company. This was due to a pipeline incident occurring, and unfortunately for Michael, the blame was placed on him. This was viewed by senior management as Michael failing his team due to lack of experience in the industry, even though he was promoted by them within a year of hire.
Michael, while senior management in the pipeline incident on you, do you in any way feel neglected and failed by your senior management?
Absolutely I do. I started off as an analyst technician, which only requires a high school diploma. Although I gained a lot of experience during my years in analyst tech, I now see that I was not equipped to perform my new job as a facility supervisor. Because of the baby boomers retiring, there are many vacant positions in middle management. I had been around for longer than most, and so I was promoted. Unfortunately, there was too many responsibilities for me to handle, and I lost sight of things. I failed the workers that I was managing because I didn't have enough experience, but senior management knew that too when the pipeline blew. The blame was put on me because I didn't provide the proper safe operating procedures to one of my guys, and oil gushed and gushed. Luckily no one was hurt, but there is hardly any wildlife left in the area.
Wow, that's a huge gap in management that needs to be filled. Was there any accountability taken by the organization internally?
Nothing of the sort. Blame the worker was usually the bottom.